So welcome everybody. We're excited to talk about stress less downsizing. We've called it different things, but we like that one. So we have a lot of cartoons. We have a lot of funny pictures. Some of them aren't mine, I confess, but some of my colleagues who do this presentation around the country, they have better pictures. So we trade whatever the most effective pictures are for the impact, because downsizing can be messy. So most of you know me, so I'm just going to talk about one piece of this. When I was a kid, my dad was actually a lifestyles director, coordinator at what we now call a retirement community. Back then it was an activities director at a nursing home. Oh. But every day, I just started school, every day after school, I would go and hang out at the nursing home. So I watched all my TV there. We played a lot of bingo. That's where I learned I've been working on the railroad and all those good songs. I still have those memorized. So as we thought about repositioning our life and my business life, I realized, you know what? I've always wanted to be around those people. Like when people would say, who's your hero? And people would say, Superman or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, right? I'd always say, my grandfather. He was always my hero. So I'm like, it's kind of serendipitous to come back to be serving in that space again. So it's a lot of fun. But as real estate planners, what differentiates us is we think like a consultant, we act like a shepherd, and we empower clients to build and protect and transfer that generational wealth without paying all the capital gains and taxes. Because a lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to leave it to my kids. Well, do all your kids think alike? No. Do they look alike? Do they act alike? No. Are they in the same financial position? No. So helping people plan that out in advance to avoid feuds later. So that's kind of our focus. But today, we want to think about it as proactive versus reactive. We always have a choice. You guys are very proactive. I happen to know your story, right? Hey, we want to make a change. We're going to make a change. But a lot of people wait till it's too late, right? We've had people I've sat down with and like, oh, I'm not ready. And then I get the call from the hospital. And now they're never going back home. So we try, and as you guys know, we try and plan that out in advance because we all have a choice. So here's the different scenarios. You're retired, you're starting to plan for the future. You've tried but can't seem to make any progress. You guys have a pristine home. Some people do, some people don't. Like I met with a lady who had her home since the 80s. Her and her husband built it, and he passed away in 2011. His bedroom was exactly the same it was 2 months ago when I met her. And she's struggling through that. So everybody's in different phases. Some people want to stay, like my grandparents did. Some people just want to clean it up and stay there. Some people say, well, you know what? I need to go somewhere else. I'm alone. My husband or wife died. I'm tired of taking care of everything. I'm tired of cooking and cleaning by myself. I'm tired of being alone. And that's where a community can come in. Because believe it or not, I didn't think this way because we always took care of family in our family. But when I've gone to different retirement communities, sometimes half of the people have no family. It's like a staggering statistic. So where we can help, I don't do it, but we have partners, or we call them allied resources, downsize, declutter, decide what to keep or not keep. So we help ask questions. Estate clear outs, that happens. And how do we make the home work to stay as you age? I've got some cute cartoons on that coming up. So this is one of my favorite. I'm the clutter fairy. I'll come back. I need a much bigger wand. So sometimes you think it's not that big of a deal, but when you start to get into it, it can be quite a process. So when you start to let go of things, it can be challenging because you do have a lifetime of memories.
I do apologize
for
interrupting. I just wanted to know if anyone needed anything to drink or anything. If everyone's okay.
Water, tea. What would you like?
Iced tea, and some water, please. One more customer.
Perfect.
Put this in your pocket.
Come on, I gotta stay professional.
We won't tell. We're an easy bunch.
So as we go through, as help people go through the process, we're always asking, how much do you really need to keep? Because if you're going from 2,000 square feet to 1,000, or you're going from 15,000 to 5,000, as funny as it sounds for some of us, we have that. I don't need 15,000 square feet anymore, but I'm going to downsize to 6,000. So whatever we're used to, you have to get rid of stuff. And this slide really says a lot of it. I've been saving it from my family, but the family ain't interested. And when we talk to our estate sale companies, one of the ones that's been on Palm Beach for a while, he's like, yeah, these people have been saving this even for 2 or 3 generations. And now he says it's not worth hardly anything. Not that it wasn't costly, but it's not worth anything in today's perception. So some of the tips that we throw out there is start with your least used rooms. And just schedule a time and start with little pieces, right? They say the longest trip starts with 1 step, right? And sort. We're going to get into what sort means, but to me, that's what you could distill this whole presentation down into that acronym. So we'll break that down. And then begin with the high traffic areas. Some people have stuff all over, and that's where some of the tripping and falling can happen. Even when you think you're pretty mobile, if there's an edge of a carpet or there's a cord, or you go from one type of surface to another and you just, for whatever reason, catch your foot. So minimize incoming items. Amazon is the bane of hoarders' existence right now, right? It used to be the TV shopping as we were talking, right? Now it's Amazon. Set your goals. It helps. It also helps to have accountability. So some of the questions we ask is, do you really need it? I've got stuff, and when I do this, I always think, and I go back home and I get rid of something. When was the last time you used it? If it's been in the box in that room for like that grandma for 40 years, and how often? Is it replaceable? Will it fit in your home? We've got a really fun picture coming up, but we always ask the question when we're sitting down or when our partners are sitting down with somebody, do you really need 4 coffee makers?
You never know.
So here's our acronym. Sort. Sell it, offer it to somebody, retain it or keep it, or toss it. And it's the simplest way to distill it down. And like we talked about, this isn't as easy or isn't as profitable as it used to be. You know, we have slides we've had to adjust because you don't get $150 for the bed anymore. Faith Farm and Goodwill don't even take it anymore. Like we helped clear out a gentleman's house, again, the 80s, it's kind of funny. He was 90, 91. And he was still driving back and forth to Connecticut and the Carolinas in his 2010 Lexus LX. Mint condition, right? But his wife couldn't come anymore. So he was like, I got to sell this condo. And he was so proud. I think I shared this Tuesday. He was the only furnished model in that development from 1987. And it looked like, the first time I walked into 1987. The wall, the pinks that were going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
The pinks, the furniture was that plastic white, like plasticky white furniture. And I said, mistakenly, because this was early on, I said, I'll take care of this for you. Well, nobody took hardly anything. I think we had like 12 pieces that were valuable. The rest was a toss. So what we like to say too, when you offer something to family or friends, you got to set a timeline. If you want this, what's today, end of August, if you want this special piece that you've been asking for 20 years, you need to pick it up by September 15. Otherwise, it just goes on and on and on. So same with friends. And identifying the things you want to keep. So if you're aging in place, if you're staying in your home, you're just clearing it out, that's easier. But if you're going to another place, which we have some slides on, you've got to take the place that you have and literally place the furniture, what's going to fit there, as you know. And then tossing. We've got a fun slide with that one. But that pile ends to be the biggest pile. This is why we sort.
Oh my God.
This is one of the ones I borrowed. I haven't had a client like that. But it happens. And this is the irony of it, right? Toss, donate, and we want to keep everything, but you can't. So how do you sell or donate items, right? We have a list of all the charities that love items that are valuable. Facebook Marketplace, I think, is overtaking Craigslist. This slide is almost a little dated, isn't it, with Craigslist? But what we're finding is online, if you can get somebody to come in and take a look at your things, and they're really good at knowing what's selling, you'd be amazed at what you can get for items that you thought were junk. So it's kind of flipped. What you thought was valuable isn't. Like we did a presentation in Stewart, and an estate person had come in before my presentation, and he was like, oh yeah, the things from the 70s, for those of us who were like in our 40s and 50s, some of those things are like worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Some of the records, some of the baseball cards, some of the little things. So it's like, yeah, we go into people and like, oh, look at my beautiful coffee table. But this little thing over here could be worth thousands. So having the right person come and determine that is really helpful. So yeah, I had prices on these. I took them off because these are the things that used to be valuable, but it's not so much to say it. Yeah.
Everything in there?
Now you might get $25. You might get $100 for the bed, right? If somebody has a truck big enough to take it. Here's another reason why we declutter. I know that's not your home, but there are homes like that. Especially, think about it, especially as it gets harder to move. You just don't worry about that cupboard anymore.
That's crazy.
Or that. Those newspapers from 1995 that you were going to read or keep for some reference. Oh, this is a big one. It's not worth what everybody hopes it was. You were hoping the kids were going to keep this and put it in their cabinet, but no longer they not even have a cabinet.
How about Oriental Woods?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to retire in them.
Right, exactly. You probably will, because nobody else will take them. Well, there are exceptions to every rule, but by and large. Here's another stack. But here's some of the things, right? If you have specific labels, there might actually be some value. But we do find this when we're doing a sort.
Oh, yeah.
I had somebody clean out. So I went through a kidney transplant, and leading up to that, there's a lot of things that got neglected. So I actually had somebody help come clean my office. And I had checks I hadn't cashed. I don't think I had cash. But can you imagine if you've been slowly declining and you haven't checked that room or that file cabinet and you forgot, and you add in memory loss, the money that's found, this was crazy, gold bars that you forgot you had buried somewhere. And this was...
Maybe the husband bought it, older couple, the husband took care of the finances and hid it and never told the wife.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That was Melendez in New Jersey, the congressman, he got locked up. He said the wife put it in his pocket, he knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
She put it in the closet and he didn't know about it.
Isn't that funny how that goes? Yeah, so there is that does happen legitimately and that happens a lot actually with spouses, where the husband's handling all the finances, the wife doesn't know where any passwords are, doesn't know any of the banking information, never mind the life insurance policies. We've had people who have long-term disability care, but the other spouse doesn't know about it. So we have something at the end I want to make available to all of you that can help, and for you guys to your customers. But this is funny, like these things that are coming to be valuable if you have the right label or the right signature on it, right? So having the right person go through it is important. So that's how we figure out what we're going to retain or keep. We kind of went through that. Is it replaceable? Will you use it again? I like this, right? You want things that'll keep you in a state of peace. Not that I'm a big yoga person at all, but the broken umbrellas and the old paintbrushes, we don't need those anymore. Those go in the toss pile. So one of the things that we found, though, you've seen it, you're driving down the road and there's a whole city block of stuff. Well, they don't pick up. We do have the ability to have the county pick up bulk items, but it's not everything and it's not all at once. So knowing how many items they can take per pickup day is really important. I think we're in unincorporated Palm Beach County, it's 3 items. So if you put out a sofa, a love seat, an end table, a piano, it's not going to get picked up. It's 3 things at a time. So each municipality, and they're really good. A lot of times when we talk about where do you go for help, and you get on the phone, and you got to go through 15 queues to get to somebody. I think it's only 1 or 2 with Southwest Management. With Solid Waste Authority, and they're helpful. I'll forget, and I'll say, okay, so I'm Monday and Thursday. What can I put out on each of those days? So as you're helping somebody or you're going through that, knowing when those days are is helpful. And recycling, right? I try to recycle things that don't recycle. So when you're going through old stuff, it's probably good to check or just toss it. It's a side note. So they're actually really good at using the waste to create energy. So in my head, sometimes it's a trade-off. Okay, we're going to use something to create energy. What's the trade-off between recycling if they're going to use it to create energy anyway? So it's a side discussion, but if in doubt, just toss it. This was a fun cartoon. And this is what happened to me with that gentleman. We ended up with 2 truckloads because we couldn't donate things. Here's an example of a before. Can you imagine? Wow. So this is after the toss. Can't even recognize the garage. Let's look at it again. It's actually the same place. Garage and carport. It's a different angle, but yeah, I think the other shot was shot this way, but you can see what the difference is. And then we just talked about this, the bulk pickup. You can't put it all out at once. But that's what things look like as they're cleaned out a little bit. This was another friend's picture because it's a great. So for those who need to downsize and move, that's where we get into figuring out how much space do we have to move to. It doesn't work too well to do it that way. So it's really timing. When do you want to move, or how do you know when it's time to move? And it's a hard question, right? Because you kind of know in your heart often, but you really don't want to make that move. And only you can answer that. But the rules of thumb is if you're feeling unsteady, it's time to think about figuring out, are we going to get help, or am I going to go to where I can get help? Because once you fall, I don't know the statistics, you probably know better, Sherry. Once you've fallen once, what is it? It's like...
Well, typically once you fall, it's within like a 90-day time frame you can re-fall.
Right.
So therefore you readmit again.
Right, so if you fall once...
Wellness is the number one problem for aging people.
Right, and it's so easy to fall. So once you fall once, you said within the next 90 days, you're like, yeah. That lady who I mentioned, who I got the call, found out she was in the hospital. She had fallen and said she was fine. She had a walker, but then the walker got caught on something, or she wasn't with it and she tripped going to get the phone, and it just happens.
I wanted to share, probably TMI, but my mother fell 3 times in the span of a month and a half. She was on a cruise, she was on a walk, and then finally fell and broke her hip because she didn't get smart. I just
Right.
wanted to share that with you.
And that's pretty recent for you, right?
Yeah, last week. 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. But that's really what I see in my business, in my home care industry. Once you fall, that means you have a balance indifference. You need help.
Right. And we met with somebody who probably all of us know is a person somewhat well known not too long ago, and we noticed how that person was walking. And then when talking with the spouse, they're sensing that that's starting to happen. And the person, it's not about age, it's about your situation. So for those of you who like lists, this is a good list. Create a goal and set a timeline. Because sometimes just having a timeline to hold ourselves accountable, it doesn't get pushed out. I mean, we all do that. And then planning. I'll show a slide on that, which is really helpful. If you think about where you're going to go, then you can think about how to put things. It's for any move, but especially if you're downsizing. And then we've already gone through the declutter. You got to figure that out before the move happens. And then who to talk to let people know you're moving. That's important, because we forget if we don't plan it out in advance in the moment. So here's the breakdown of how we can kind of walk through. Is the home too large now that the kids are gone? Like, we've walked through homes where there's a closed door. It's like, is it okay to go in? Yeah, that's Johnny's room. Johnny hasn't been there for 30 years. Right? So if they're not coming back, do you really need all the space? Then we talked about this, cooking and cleaning. We did a seminar in Addington Place in Jupiter. And it happened to be 9 ladies that came. And they had already made the move. So we actually flipped the conversation because they'd already moved. So I was asking them questions, and I learned so much. It was a lot of fun. But essentially, the number one thing for the ladies was they were tired of cooking. Like, we've done it for 70 years. We want somebody else to cook. Never mind the cleaning and cleaning up after and all that steps. Even if it's a couple steps here and there, right, on even floor. Living alone, that's another thing. It's like, Did I remember to lock the door? Oh, I don't remember. But then it's too late, you're too tired. The security issues come up. And unfortunately in this world, people do notice people that are vulnerable. And it's not fair, but they do. And they take advantage of that. We had a meeting yesterday morning in Palm Beach with a group of men. And the man who presented was a gentleman who has a disabled son. And he went into to see the doctor. It was like when the kid was just a few months old. Long story short, but the 3 neurosurgeons said, oh, just institutionalize him. They literally, all 3 of them didn't want him to take care of his own son. So he chose to. But he says what he's learned, having a son who's now 33, and he has to do everything for, that people don't respect people with handicaps. Some of you are not. It's sad. So thinking about those things and security when it's coming to your own life is important. And making a decision, well, you can make a decision, right? Your mom has you, but if she didn't have you, what would she do if she, yeah.
That's the number one thing I see as well, waiting too late and not being able to have control over where you're going. Right. If you would have just planned earlier. Yeah.
And it's very rare, but we've had couples, to your point, where I did a presentation, it was again in Stewart, and there's a young, bright couple, well, young, in front of me, right? They were fresh and full of energy. And I was like, they had told me, this community had told me they'd already moved to the community. I was like, oh, okay. And I said, so why did you move so early? Because they still hadn't sold their properties. They're like, we wanted to move while we still could. We wanted to move while we could enjoy the amenities where we were going. So they're an exception, but they're a good example of what that looks like. So here's an example of the blank space to where you're going. So it could be a house if you're downsizing. It could be a community, but there's the space, and then how do you take it? So when you distill it down, the decision is emotionally complex, but practically it's simple, because you can only have room for 1 dining table, right? You're only going to have room for probably a love seat, maybe not even the big couch, because some of these spaces are 900 square feet, 1,200 square feet. So you can literally look around your room, and we have people that will help do that, and you say, okay, this is going, that's going, that's going, and you've picked your 8 pieces, and it simplifies the process. Oops. Uh-oh. Getting ahead of myself. Who do I tell? We talked about that, but here's some of the people. Postcards, family, friends, utilities. If you're going to another house, then we have what we call utility helpers. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. But they're really good about, at the next address, okay, we'll get all those utilities set up. In a community, that's already taken care of for you. And then in the moving companies that we've worked with, the downsizing, packing, moving, on the day of the move, it's all done. So we say, hey, go out, here's a gift certificate for lunch, here's a movie ticket, or here's a cruise on the Intracoastal. It's all unpacked, and when you come back at 5 o'clock, the house is set up. So we stress less downsizing.
I do too. I didn't realize you guys offered that service.
I don't, but the partner she's phenomenal.
Wonderful.
And it just takes it's not free, but it's not
Well
expensive.
worth it. Well worth it.
Because it makes that day fun and exciting. You come back and everything's where you'd asked it to be. So this part we change because we take care of this. And then for people who do want to make a change, and if you're by yourself, like you guys are a couple, right? But if you're by yourself and you've been yourself for 20 years, sometimes you don't want to be by yourself anymore. Some people do, but for those who don't, they like being around other people. And we found that to be the case. It was you, Sherry.
Me?
Yeah, that was telling me about the gentleman who moved into, the 2 gentlemen that shared a room in a smaller home care
They moved into
community.
assisted living and they didn't know each other and they shared a room because of the cost, and they wound up being best friends.
That's awesome.
And they had both lost their wives, so they both got rid of their homes and moved into this private home, and they're loving life. Nothing wrong with them, they were just lonely. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that story has stuck with me, how 2 guys can become best buddies so they can watch their old movies together from when they were kids.
They watch all the old stuff.
Right? So it can be a good thing. To be honest, it's interesting for me. I don't understand that world because our family's always taken care of family. But knowing that so many people, it's a big deal, it helps me think outside the box. So for those of us who want to stay in the same place, these are some things to keep in mind. Again, it's planning it out. We've talked about the downsizing, the organizing and decluttering, but this part is important. How do you modify your home to make it work so that you can stay there? Right? Not very conducive to safety or functionality. Right? This was a borrowed picture too, because I don't have these extreme pictures. So again, I don't know how people live like that, but a lot of people do. And it was you again, Sherry. Tell me about this really wealthy person who had a home in California,
Yeah.
who had stuff everywhere, a hoarder.
Oh gosh, I have so many stories, but just the short version. They had the money,
Yeah.
they had the house. You couldn't walk 3 feet anywhere, and it was just piles of stuff.
And it was Palo Alto or somewhere really
Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
It's expensive, yeah.
And it's the same scenario. They don't want to leave their house because they don't think they need to, and they just stuff everywhere. And I'm like, if you don't want that Corvette, I can take that off your hands. It hasn't been driven in 5 years. I'll take it off your hands. But yeah.
Yeah, so
It
it's
happens in my industry every day.
yeah, and it's not just about price point or income level. It's just a mindset of a person. So, much safer. Here's another shot of the dining room. I can't even recognize the room, really.
A lot of it too, Arthur, is motivation. They don't have the motivation to do the work.
Right.
So they sit and marinate.
The motivation, and one time, sometimes, what's that? It's that, is it an HD feed or broad? I don't know which channel, but where they do love it or list it.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Right? So it's kind of like that. Maybe once you get your house cleaned up, you won't want to move. Right? Or you bring someone in. Like we talk about college kids being roommates or when you're first starting out. But like you talked about the residential assisted living communities, those work too, because then there's only 5 or 6 of you. So we're actually working with somebody right now who came to one of our earlier seminars. He's a retired physician. He doesn't want to be alone. He would love to have a residential assisted living facility at his house. So he could have 4 or 5 other people there. He can stay in his own home. They don't want to be alone. So there's a lot of creative options to figure that out. But these are the practical things to organize. And this is kind of fun. I used to live like this. I'm not disorganized. I know exactly where everything is. The newer stuff is on top, the older stuff's on the bottom. So a practical thing, how things clean up when you have the right tools to organize them. Cabinet organizers. This one is kind of fun. It took me a minute to get it. I'm a little slow. Everything's in place. Now I can relax. That's one person, right? The other person is, this is my bed where I keep my clothes pile, and this is my desk chair where I keep my other clothes pile. It's easy. Just come on, take it off. Why bother hanging it? But what's fascinating, as a side note, I've started to time myself. When I'm tempted not to put it back in its place, I've started to count off the seconds. Okay, how long is it really taking me to take this item and put it where it's supposed to go? And almost always it's less than 90 seconds. But that 90 seconds over the course of a week gives you 30 minutes worth of cleaning later. So taking that extra little time to put it away in the right place helps. This is the fun part, home modifications. Removing the trip hazards like we talked about. Lighting is a big deal. Because if you can't see, this is what we were waiting for. The menu. Please come on in. We're going to take a break and we'll take the menus. We'll get our menu. Any comments or questions while we're getting our food? It's okay. No, it's in a tough place. Good catch. We'll get it fixed. We'll be back.
You don't need assisted living.
Good. It's all good. We'll get a reposition. Okay, so go ahead.
My apologies.
You're good. Really. The camera, it's fallen to the floor on concrete. It's okay.
That's so funny.
We were coming in to check to see if anyone wanted to order something for lunch.
Yes,
we
please.
have quite a few options today.
Oh my God.
I have to do the whole spiel, sorry. We have our a la carte menu where we have smash burgers, pickled shrimp cocktail, things like that. And then we have our other option where we have a prefix and a special. Our afternoon special today are chili hot dogs with coleslaw, and our prefix option is the Thai chili shrimp bowl with pork belly fried rice.
That sounds good.
And we also offer BLTs, grilled cheese with tomato slices, French fries, things like that, deli sandwiches as well.
Well, that sounds fabulous.
More choices than we had last time, man. This is getting better. I would say, let's go ahead, Robert and Iris.
BLT with fries?
BLT with fries, yes, sir. For you, ma'am?
I think I'll try that shrimp.
The Thai shrimp bowl?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. For you?
The Thai shrimp sounds great.
Do you have a soup?
We do I'm sorry, my words is The soup of today is navy bean soup.
Yeah,
Any crackers to go along with it?
please.
Is the Thai shrimp spicy?
We do have it with the sauce off of it in case if you don't want the
Could you do
sauce.
that, please? Yes, I love that. Thank you. I love it.
A smash burger with fries.
Mighty good one.
I know, right?
I'm afraid. I'll have to sleep.
And for you, sir?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're breaking my heart too.
Oh, I'm sorry, but just that you're taking care of them makes me happy.
Yes, sir. We'll be back in a few.
Okay, perfect.
He is wonderful.
So the mobility issues are a big thing. We're going to get through this and then we'll have some more questions, and then I want Sherry to share a couple things. Renovating, like just accessibility. Like I think of what we did for my grandmother's house to make it work for her. So my grandma and grandpa bought a house when I was born, 1977. And that was home. Every chance we had to get there, wherever we grew up in Canada, even if it was a 30-hour drive, like 30 hours drive time, we would go there for spring break, for Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, anything. But I remember after Grandpa passed away, because he fixed everything, she was there alone for 12 years. And so figuring out, well, my uncle was there for a little bit of time, but making things work, right? Creating ramps, creating grab bars. And I got some fun pictures that bring that out. But like these are the things that happen, right? And you guys know this even better than I do. And the lighting, like it's hard to believe it's the same place, right? Just with lighting, brightening everything up, even painting. Like people think, oh, I'm going to get my house ready to sell, but how about clean it up so you can stay? You've done a good job of that. This one is hilarious. At my age, the only pole dancing is to hold on to the safety bar in the bathtub, right? So like having those, when you're younger, you think, oh, that'll never be me. But all of a sudden it becomes us, right? Even just doing something. Like we had said yes to one family coming over to our house. And then we'd invited somebody else to stay in the little guest house that we have next door. And then we ended up with like 4 families all at once. So we were making a lot of beds. And I was reaching over to do one of the beds, and that, whatever it was, happened. I was like, oh! And now all of a sudden I flashed to, oh, those grab bar things, that's what they're for, right? So as you're gonna stay and age in place, it helps a lot. In fact, I don't think they had it. We had a couple that we helped downsize. We met them here. They had a condo in Palm Beach, and they had a lake house in Vermont, and then a house in the mountains. That was their main house. And we sold the condo, they had already sold the lake house by the time I met them. We helped arrange for the sale through our partners of the Vermont house, and they downsized into a smaller place. And they're like, oh, we're going to be here as long as we live. But they waited too long. And they didn't have the grab bars in the showers. And the falling that happened, I mean, thank God they recovered, but the damage was done and it accelerated them having to go. They ended up moving to Morse Life. But it was a much bumpier journey than it needed to be because they're like, no, I'm fine, I don't need that. So it's better to do it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
And there's medical furniture, as you guys, I'm sure you know, that looks like furniture. It doesn't look like a hospital bed. It doesn't look like a medical recliner. They're really, really nice pieces that you can use to transition before you need skilled nursing. I mean, they're medical grade, and they look like good furniture.
We've come a long way. So that medical grade furniture that's great. Maybe I need to get a slide from you on that. There's some pictures, because these are the old type stuff. But it's really even if you don't have that, right? It's like it's better to be safe. So here's some more pictures of bathroom modifications. It doesn't take much. A seat and a grab bar. Grab bar. For kitchens. Right, making a space for the wheelchair to come in, bringing the things down out of the cupboards, like those closet cupboard organizers where it can come down. Ramps. We don't like 2 stories here in Florida, but even just the ramp to get up sometimes, right? So that way you can enjoy your life. So, while we're waiting for the food, Sherry, do you want to share a tidbit in terms of what it looks like for home care for those who want to age in place?
Sure.
And while you're coming up, any comments, questions about the checklist, the process?
You know, my mother lived with me for the last time I lived with her life. Wow. And she was very stubborn. And she had the walker, and she needed it. And so my kitchen was it was huge.
Yeah.
And so she'd be standing at the counter, and the walker would be over here, by the way, with the fallen I can't get up button attached to it.
The button on the chair that's,
It was on
yeah.
It was on
The walker.
and she's over here.
Right.
So do you have any recommendations on how to start this conversation?
That's a great question.
It's a hard conversation to have with your parents.
I think the 2 things. One, yeah, it is. One is it has to be repetitive. We say repetition increases. Now I'm going to mess up the phrase. Repetition increases memory. Like you remember it better the more it's repeated. That's why advertising works. And coming at it from a place of understanding it's a hard conversation, but because I love you, and then telling stories. We all learn. We're actually created. There's a whole book. We're created for narrative. We're created to learn and live by story. So telling a story. You know what? I know somebody, or I just was at a seminar and I heard about the grandma who was going to downsize next year and ended up in the hospital. I'd rather, Mom or Dad, I'd rather figure this out together while we can still have a fun conversation where you're not hurting and I'm not hurting because you're hurting. And it's more often that it has to be multiple. Like usually it's not one conversation. And even if they're going to age in place, just doing some of those modifications yourself, if you can. And then the home care person. We went through this with a client of mine. His wife's mother, she was taking care of her mom herself, and she was getting caregiver fatigue. And I said, I know it's not an easy conversation, but your wife needs help. And he said, no, she's fine. She's going to do it herself. And I was like, no, just even somebody part-time. Maybe we can find somebody that's more her age, kind of, and they go out to lunch together once in a while. So one of the ways that we do it is just bringing them into it slowly. Oh, this person's here is going to help us while we do this today. And you're opening them up, you're creating a friendship, and then they get more and more hours. So you get more and more relief. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's some of the ways that we go at it.
Well, my mother was a very stubborn.
It doesn't always work.
It doesn't apply. It did not apply to her. She's an exception to the rule.
I know. My grandma was 100% British, so I don't know if what's worse or better. But any other thoughts, questions? Sherry, you want to kind of give some perspective on what it looks like on the front lines?
A few of you already know me. We know each other from being in the industry. So it's nice to meet new people.
Here, hold that. It'll pick up on the thing better.
wear it or hold it?
Just hold it. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So my name is Sherry. I work for a company called Right at Home, and we've been in business for 30 years. I am a retired realtor. I was a realtor for 20 years, so just a quick snapshot. That's how I hooked up with Arthur, because I happen to work in the senior space, and he's a realtor who cares about seniors. So we're collaborating on a few events, some ideas that we're doing, and working with partners that you see in the room, because there are a few of us that really, truly care about our seniors, and there are those that are after the money. We are not that. So in a snapshot, we offer private duty in-home care. You guys all know what that is. You call me, I send a caregiver, we match up the caregiver, we help you. We are also Medicare approved to provide 80 hours of free home care to anyone who has Medicare A or B. 80 hours of free home care. That just started in July, and that's a huge accomplishment for us. We've been fighting for years for that. So our company is able to provide those home care hours. So all you do is call me and say, hey, Sherry, let's have a chat. The last thing I will say is that Arthur and I are in talks with someone to open a residential assisted living home. I got in this business because when I was a realtor, people were passing away and I was selling the spouses homes, and then I would have 8 men as boyfriends over the age of 80. And I said, this is a business. So I got out of real estate and got into private home care. I started my own company from scratch, and I did that for 15 years. And so the private residential that we're talking about are regular homes in regular communities. You wouldn't even know it's an RAL, is what it's called, residential assisted living. And you have 6 bedrooms, and you have a nurse as an owner-operator. And so you invite them to come live there. They have their own room. They do their own decor. They have friendship. They have meals together. They have outings. There is nothing identifiable as medical from the outside. So that's what we're doing. So I invite you to look into that if you have a loved one that needs that kind of service, or talk to me or any of us in the room. Nancy and I know each other well, and we know each other, and we work together. I'm home care. She's placement. She's an attorney. We all have needs, so we all like each other, and we work together very well. And that's my little snippet.
Thank you, Sherry.
And I'm thankful to be working with you.
Thank you. Well, you know what we've all learned, and you guys found it when you came here and you were trying to figure out how to get contractors to do things, right? There's people who do things the right way and people who don't know how to do things. So this is a cute slide that I like to use as we close out, right? We want to be around people like this all of our life, but especially when we have family we're taking care of. And it's not always people that are older than us, like the gentleman I shared. He's taking care of his son. And anything can happen. It can happen as we're leaving here today. We can pull out on Central and, right, you don't know. We have a family who has a centennial mango avocado farm out in Canal Point, so out by Lake Okeechobee. And the dad, well, who we call the dad, is really the grandson from the original founder. But he's got his daughters, which would be the great-grandkids, and one daughter has a son who's a teenager, so great. But his daughter started dating a gentleman, fine young man, and they were, the whole family, it wasn't like they were out being silly as, singles doing stuff at midnight. They went out to Jupiter to go play on the beach and be in the water, and he got caught in a riptide, and he's now a paraplegic. So we don't know. We think, oh, well, I don't need that. I don't need to think about that. But we don't know when it could happen. It could be us. It could be somebody we care about. So it's important to, once you at least have these tools available, it's easier to help yourself or help friends and family.
I
Sherry.
was just going to say, our partner, Monica, who works at the Aycock Riverside Funeral Home, she does pre-planning for burials. Now, I never heard of such a thing until my dad died. And my mom signed up and got hers done. I got mine done. And then I found out that this is an interesting statistic. The biggest growth in Alzheimer's diagnosis is under the age of 50, young onset Alzheimer's. So you never know when it's going to happen. You have to have a plan. Doesn't matter the age.
That's a good point, Sherry. Yeah, planning for every part of the things that we know we're going to have to do. But yeah, under 50, young onset Alzheimer's. Yeah.
Hearing stories,
And the nightmare is you have a 45 or 48-year-old Alzheimer patient, right? Now imagine you put that person in one of my homes with 88-year-old people.
No.
There's no relatability. So the new niche market is homes for younger people that are having dementias. It's
Right.
crazy.
Or the value of thinking about planning to be able to take care of that person even within your family, because it's a lot of money. We have a whole nother presentation where we talk about the cost of choosing to age in place or go to a community. That's it. Thank you for coming. Now we get to eat. Usually we're eating through the whole thing. I guess they got busy out there or something. But this is what we do in our strategy session, is we're helping people think, what can I do to plan ahead with the real estate? Is it in a trust? How does the trust define it? Does it define it that it goes to both kids? If so, real estate is not divisible, right? So a lot of times people will come to us and say, oh, it's fine. I have 2 kids. I have 2 properties. They each get 1. Well, that sounds pretty good. I mean, usually that ends the conversation. But we go back to what we talked about at the beginning. Do your kids think alike? Are they in the same financial situation? Is it the same family size? Because it's not about inequity always. It's about perceived inequity. Think about it, right? I have 2 girls, 11 and 7. One gets this for a gift from Auntie Iris or from somebody. The other one gets the other one. And there's perceived inequity, right? So that happens to adults when their parents pass away. Well, your house is closer to the beach. Yeah, but yours has more land. Well, I need more land. Well, it just happens. So we call it, actually, we do a seminar where we distill it all down and we take it from the point of view of family feud prevention. So planning it out in advance saves the conversations that you don't want to happen after, because most parents, there's exceptions to every rule. There's some very unhappy families that don't care. But most people, when you walk them through the process, they feel bad when you say, okay, I know Michael isn't your favorite son, and you think he's wasted his life, and you're not going to give him anything in your will. But how would you feel if Sally and Susie, who are Michael's kids, don't get along with John and Jack and your other grandkids because of the fact that you left him out of the will? Oh, I'd feel horrible if my grandkids never talked to each other because of that. So it's hard conversations. They're not easy. But having those in advance, at least as it surrounds real estate, then opens up the other conversations that end up having regarding pre-planning and all those other things. So share what you've learned with somebody else, right? It helps reinforce what you learned too. Oh, I learned that silly thing. There was that picture of that lady in the bathtub, that old grandma holding onto a pole, or whatever that stood out. Remember the SWORD acronym: sell, offer, retain, and toss. And sign up for trustworthy.com. So take note of this, trustworthy.com. It takes if you can upload all of your documents, so start early in one safe place, and then you give the passcode or the access level to your CPA, to your kid, to your trustee, and then when something happens to you, it's all in one place. Nobody has to go missing for the key to the bank deposit box and they don't know which bank it belongs to. It's all identified in one place. So it's free. It saves a lot and this would be great for your clients in estate planning.
Start giving that out to my clients.
Yeah. And you can actually pay for an upgraded membership as a gift, which we do a lot of times. So, bon appetit.
Thank you.
Did you get the right?